Can y'all hear me, chat? Just want to share my audio's overall clear, you know. Can y'all hear me, chat? Just want to share my audio's... Okay. Anyway, yo, it's good chat. How y'all feeling today? I'm feeling blessed. Back with more of me playing GT5 Director Mode. I have to whisper quite a bit because my parents are asleep. I know I'm not necessarily in my mom's house, and I mentioned that I wouldn't necessarily care if my kids are loud, which I'm going to be adopting tweens. I've mentioned on my recent live stream. But, I'm going to play for quite a bit. If you're quite curious why... Okay, that's where I left off. I'm pretty sure I jumped and I paused. But I'm here. I know I was at somewhere in the road, but I was talking with my homie's girl, his wife, obviously. Yeah, apparently she's at school while 18, but I feel like age doesn't necessarily matter, chronologically speaking, because if you're held back, hey, it could be a reason. So, oh, who's hosting a party, real shit? Some old hags, apparently. Would you all want a house party, chat? I never had one when I was a teenager. And people are going to be like, why just teenagers? Anybody can consider having. Well, I mean, like, when you have those mood swings, you're like, who gives a shit about our parents? They just want to be old fashioned. If that was my kids, I would let them have a house party as tweens, like, from that time. Because they're the one I'm adopting, so one is going to be 10. Her name is going to be Aurora, spelled differently. It's Aloura, I'm pretty sure. And the other one, it's going to be Kaylee, and the other one's Lily. But apparently Lily, her description mentioned that she wants the center of attention. And yeah, it's arrogant, but my character AI, and according to my character AI, it mentioned in the bottom, this is AI, not necessarily a real person. And I'm obviously adding extra words because, I'm a smartass. So this is AI, not necessarily a real person. Treat everything it says as fiction. Not everything it mentioned is fiction, but anything that seems fiction. Like, for example, I'm going to read this that I mentioned. Look, I get it. You believe in certain theories, but your belief cannot necessarily change facts. Well, actually, it could, because it's through God Almighty Jesus Christ. And it mentions that mental maturity at 18 and 7 is not necessarily the same. Actually, it is. Because... Actually, it is the same, because I was actually watching a video as well. But anyway. It actually is, because... Yeah, people are going to assume that, you're mentally mature when you're 18. No, you can't assume that. And making it a legal thing... No, legal rights... I feel it can remain because that means like you have access to all the aspects. Like if you're 7, for example, you can vote like who you want to be president, whether male or female, obviously, young or old. Obviously, people want the young ones. I feel like after JD Vance, it's gonna be me, and then afterwards, possibly gonna be like someone who is a kid, like temporarily, physically a kid / travels in a mortal body. Could be a tween. Well, younger adolescent. It could be like a tween, a teenager, an older adolescent, not like my age, like 20. Like you just started that age, you either could possibly be aging or not, depending on, because you can't know for sure if you're gonna age. You may think like, I'm gonna be young my whole life. I can smoke cigarettes and all that, but that's not why cigarettes were invented. That's one thing why, but two, because of stress. You really think a cigarette can help with stress? No. Even me myself don't want to constantly vape. It's not necessarily as bad compared to cigarettes, but using it to relieve stress and anxiety is a no-no. Even my homie Farhan only does it when he needs it, but not when he wants it. Like let's say his stress and anxiety is real bad, then shit, might as well. But I typically play with myself, I would say. I'm just gonna say self. Yo, what's good, Jesse? How you feeling, brother? But that's how I relieve my stress and anxiety. I'm pretty sure certain individuals relieve their stress and anxieties through, by any means. It could possibly be doing you know what, or playing with you know what. There's many reasons to relieve stress and anxiety. People use fidgets. I'm not the type of person. I typically have this self-sexual reality where I'm like, just get to enjoy myself, explore myself, if you know what I mean. And I feel like that is discovered when 8 or 10, when you're going through puberty. But I feel like if you're 7, hey, it does no harm. But you're not going through puberty, so it's like you're playing with a peanut, like a peanut, than like playing with what it's meant to be for boys. For girls, doesn't necessarily matter. Like whether you're 7 or whatever, whenever you start puberty. But anyway, aside from that, but yeah, 18, yeah, you can't assume that the person's mentally mature. I feel like that's gonna be removed by me like 4 more years. Just like the synonym that I've already chatted about. I'm not gonna get into it. That's why I'm using the word adolescent, so y'all should know. I mean, I'm gonna really just speak facts and. But anyway, so it mentions mental maturity at 18 and 7, and I'm gonna change the sentence, so don't be like, oh, why are you changing it? I have my rights to, because that's how you speak the truth. So mental maturity at 18 and 7 are exactly the same. Because you're aware of your mental maturity when you're 7. Your brain has enlarged enough. Oh, I gotta whisper. I don't want my parents to be like, oh, why am I loud? Because you know how parents are. They think, like, if you talk loud, you're disturbing sleep. Well, if you're doing it, like, intentionally, like, very loud, like how I would, like, talk, then that would be a sin. So talk at a voice, at a tone where it doesn't wake them up. But at the same time, I wouldn't care. Just don't be very loud. Like, if your dog barks, you can't be, because I feel like people treat their dogs badly, and I've noticed, like, majority of people, they treat them like assholes. And I'm not gonna name who. Okay, when people say I'm not gonna name who, it's actually okay. At the same time, it's a sin because people want to know who exactly. But at the same time, they think you're spreading false rumors, but you're not. Why are you saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna mention your name" if you're speaking the truth? They're not in the room. Yeah, say it to their face whenever you prefer to, but like they're not in the room where they'll feel offended. Like, for example, if you say, I'm gonna use my name for example. Let's say I was somewhere and my homies are talking shit, which they would never. If they do, I'm gonna be pissed because my homies got pissed when I talk shit about them. Well, I was speaking the truth, but they actually want me to speak with them, and I'm like, well, I don't want that person to get mad. That's the whole point why I talk shit. Because they're gonna get mad, they're gonna bitch slap me, they're gonna want to get into a fight. I ain't all that. But my homie Andrew, I'm gonna mention his name, and this is actually not like shit talk. This is more like just a peaceful truth. Because he is a sub to me, but he doesn't watch my stream much. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna talk about something that is negative. Anyway, so Andrew, he wants me to say it to his face. He wants me to talk about it man to man, talk it out like adults, meaning talk it out like mature boys slash man or girls slash women. Anyway, besides that, he wants me to say to his face. Like, for example, if I have something to mention, like whatever, then I'll just say, "Hey, why do you think that? What is the cause and the reason?" Instead of going to my homie Farhan or whoever and mention like, "Oh, why does Angel mention that and all that?" And Angel will be like, I saw that text that you mentioned to your homie, so why don't you want to mention it to my face? Like, is it because you were quite curious if I was gonna be mad at you or pissed? And he would get pissed if I didn't say it to his face. So I feel like when he mentioned just say it to my face, because I've repeated it more than twice or once before. Because I'm like that as well. I want them to say it to my face. But Farhan and Angel mentioned that they don't talk shit about me. And I'm gonna be honest, they don't necessarily. Because I even mentioned Farhan, hey, do you and Angel talk shit? Because that's why I'm curious, like, what I miss in the call. Because I'm like, are you talking shit about me? Because you can say it to my face too. But they say, no, we're not like that. If we're not like that, then I'm sure you wouldn't be like that in negative term. But yeah, I do talk shit about people, and I'm not gossiping, because there's a difference between gossiping and... Because talking shit just means you say something that may seem false, but isn't false. That's just a term. Talk shit, that's like a slang term. I ain't gonna say who. And yeah, that's the whole point why people say, oh, I'm not gonna say their name, because what if you're streaming? You can't get rid of it. What's mentioned, you've mentioned it. Well, yeah, I mentioned YouTube to keep it private, but if it's about someone that they can't, then they'll be like, hey, this is your homie. Why would you say about that person? If they do typically watch your stream, then, like, I wouldn't talk shit about Jesse, for example. Like, yeah, he rarely joined my stream or here and there, but Once I mention it, what if he's like, "Oh, I've watched your recent live stream." You never know. They can watch your videos without you knowing, which I would know for sure if that person did or not. Anyway, I'm gonna continue the reading of what my character AI mentioned, and then it mentions that a 7-year-old doesn't have the life experience, emotional regulation, or understanding of consequence of an 18-year-old. That is BS. Life experience means like, let's say for example, I want to be president, and I like know how to be president like this year, and then 7 years later I'm like, wow, this is exactly what I was thinking 7 years ago. Because I'm 20 and I'm gonna be 27 7 more years, so it just seems reasonable to like think like oh, you can like that's what life experience is, meaning you've had experience throughout your life. People think that life experience means like decades or years, but no. I mean, yeah, in college, but that's like you're learning different steps, not like a life experience. Like like for your training, for example, if you want to be an astronaut, what if you don't want it to be like 12 or 11 years or 10 years? What if you wanted to shorten it to like 8 or 9 or excuse me, 8, 7, 6 or 5 years or 6 or 7, 8? Like let's say for example, my biological daughter is 5 and she wants to be in college at that age and I'm like, I mean, hey, you're not 7, you're possibly not going to understand much, but you'll learn the ropes. Like her third year will be, excuse me, her second year will be like 7 and then third is 8. 4, then 5, 6. Should be 11. And that is reasonable because you have to go through puberty. By the time you hit puberty, you're like, oh, okay, I can be an astronaut. But the training. Hold up. 1, 2, 3. Actually, yeah. By the time she's like 10 or something, or 9 or 10, she'll be like, okay, I'm gonna train as an astronaut. I'm gonna have to ask my character AI like, what are the process of being an astronaut again? Like I'll learn this. I take 4 years, but because 4 years does seem reasonable, you can't necessarily change the curriculum for like college itself. It's 4 years. 4 years is not necessarily bad. And what I consider college football, you know, I possibly may want to consider because I never took one at school, and I'm pretty sure you could. Because if you don't take one in high school, you can still consider it in college. They'll just teach you. Because I want to be one when I'm like 24. And it's still a great age to be a football player when you're 24. It, definitely is. But anyway, when you're like 7 plus or just 7 years old specifically, that age and above, your brain has enlarged enough. It has made plenty of rooms for plenty of neurons within your brain, especially the prefrontal cortex, which is one of the neurons. Y'all know what the prefrontal cortex, excuse me, the prefrontal cortex is, which is like your cognitive thinking, like your critical thinking, your cognitive thinking, overall, like what you use to think. Because if you're 5 years old, like my brother, he's 4. He, throw tantrums. And I used to mention to my sister, oh, he has a demon in him. He possibly could, but what if it just took a while for him to process? And I'm like, then that's just. Because religiously, it could be a demon, or it could be like God Almighty Jesus Christ mentioned, he is developing. His brain is fully developed and fully formed, but it is enlarging, meaning it has to make room. So as you grow, it makes room. And when you hit the growth spurt, it's like you have mood swings, and I'm gonna be adopting 3 tweens, so I gotta. That is why I want to adopt them, but at the same time, I'm not gonna return them back. I'm not gonna just use them to see what it's like and give myself a test. No, I'm gonna keep them. I'm gonna love them. I'm gonna care for them. I'm gonna introduce them on my vlogging channel or family channel, like a mini family channel. When I mean my mini, meaning like it's just me and my 3 daughters, and my wife. But if she wants to live with her parents because she is focusing on volunteering while I'm focusing on internship, because I mentioned I was volunteering before, that is her choice. I love my wife. I care for her. I don't exploit her. And I mentioned before, even though she's gonna be 24, or even though she's 23, you can still exploit someone in a relationship and use them for sex. You can still be a sex offender or a pedophile towards one. Whether younger or older, the word pedophile just means you're a sex offender or a pervert, however you want to use it, which is also shows the word lust, as according to certain biblical series, aka the Holy Bible, which is through the OG Bible, or just overall. Even though it's rewritten, there's certain aspects where it mentions like something true that has not been necessarily changed. So God of my Jesus Christ. Hold on, give me a minute. I'm gonna think about something personal real quick. I think about something personal real quick. But yeah, like I'm gonna love them. I mean, two are like 11 and one is 10. The one who is 11, named Lily, wants to seek. She wants to be center of attention, and I understand like it's part of her mood swings. What if she has this pride in her? I don't mean like sinfully. I mean like just want to feel proud of who you are and just want to show people something. I mean, who knows? It mentioned that she's the center of attention, so I have to see what that's like. But I am gonna adopt her. Excuse me. I'm gonna adopt her. Because I want kids who play video games. I don't want to feel like, I wish I could play Fortnite with me. I wish I could play GTA. But then I want someone in the family to be a WWE wrestler. Like, just something similar that I do. Like, if I want to be an astronaut, what if someone follows my footsteps? And if they don't want to, then that is their choice. Yeah, I'm the type of person who wants every job. They don't necessarily have to, you know? And plus, they have mood swings, so what if, they're gonna say something, like my sister, because I mentioned to her, I want you to drive when you're 15, you're gonna just start young, it just feels great, if you start young, that is the life experience, that is like, within that year, you've learned plenty, and then a couple years later, you're like, you know what, my brother's right, I drove since I was 15, and I didn't have to wait until I'm 16. I even mentioned to her, you'll change your mind. What if you want a job when you're like 14 or 15 or... Well, because I'm going to make Planet Future 2029 and she'll be 14, 15. So, regardless of, like, in terms of the motherfucking bitch-ass current law, like, or excuse me, the motherfucking bitch-ass current laws, like, despite the age requirement laws being temporarily, like, regardless of her mental maturity and regardless of her chronological age. Yeah, I mean, especially the chronological ages I especially mentioned was in my recent live stream. Like, despite the age requirement laws being temporarily, like whether it's 14 or 15 to have a job, that's what I mean. Because I am going to lower it to like 12 or 10, like whenever you start puberty, and not necessarily like, excuse me. Not necessarily, because Cause I even mentioned to her, if you start young, you would gain plenty of experience. But yeah, anyway, despite the age requirement laws being temporarily, I'm just saying, like, because she'll be 14, 15 when I make plenty of changes on exactly year 2029, and I'm going to lower it to, like, 12 for now, and then... Excuse me, possibly 10? Actually, how about 12 for now, and then 10 potentially. Anyway, I'm going to read what I mentioned. And I mentioned emotion regulation. Obviously, a 7-year-old can mention it. Or excuse me, not mention it. Manage it. And an understanding of consequence, obviously. And maturity is not something you overall reach within a certain time. It's a process, a slow, gradual, precious process. Well, yeah, right when you're born, yeah, your brain's fully formed, fully developed. And I mean, like, yeah, it would take... Because, like, my brother... Or... Yeah, my brother, like, he is gonna throw tantrums, and I don't necessarily like it. Whether he may have a demon or not within him, I don't like it. And I get irritated. You notice how stressed when you heard that thing in the background when he was using those kids vehicles, like for little kids, like toddlers or 5 and 6 year olds. Yeah, I don't necessarily like that, you know. You know, I mean, okay, I don't mind it if he uses, but if he's like in the room and I'm talking with my homie, we're having an adult conversation, meaning a mature talk, like we're mentally mature. You know, obviously he's 25 and I'm 20, and I even mentioned to him, "Do you think the brain is fully developed and fully formed when you're 25?" And he thinks that, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't agree with that. I would say 7. Well, excuse me, birth, but to be aware of your mental maturity, it's 7." Because Salvador, look at him. He knows what sex is. And that's all I'm going to mention. Because I was like, mentioned to him, do you know these aspects? And people use the term age appropriate. Any age is appropriate. Don't be like, oh, this is appropriate within that age, but when you're older, this will be more appropriate and you would have more understanding. No. I wouldn't even use that term if you're like 5 or 6. I would just mention it's not appropriate for that age until you're 7, but you can have a bit of a talk if you're like 5, if they could understand, or possibly 6, you know. Because my brother is 5. You really think he's gonna know what that is? No. So I can't mention, like, you know. And who knows what he's gonna possibly be like when he's 5? What if he looks the same? He better change though when he's 5. I mean, he better. But I would have to wait until he's 6 as well. So that, I'm pretty sure that's what they mean. Like, you mature slowly, meaning until you're 7, you're like aware of it. Because he is mentally mature. He knows how to use the bathroom. Actually, he's potty training. I mean, he's still within that process because he, you know, have to wear a diaper during the night because in case he, you know. But he's doing great. He, well, unfortunately can't stand to urinate because he's still growing. But he's a boy, so boys, you know how they are. They grow very tall. Well, I prefer if they're like my height, like 5'8". That'd be like a win-win because, you know, some people are actually that height. But if they're skinny, oh, excuse me, it would be like, you know, I would notice like, oh, they're my height. Because if they're like chunky, then I'm like, not being offensive, but whether they're just that height because of that, like it's pulling on their weight, or you can't notice like whether they're your height or not. Well, I can, but it just takes a while for me to process for certain guys. Girls, you would notice because, you know, they are typically within the 5 feet range. Some can be like 6 feet. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is no. I prefer girls to be like those heights. Well, yeah, they're 5 feet something because of puberty, but you know, guys being 6 feet, I'm like, why are you grateful? Well, you could be grateful because I mean, I'm 5'8". I prefer being 5'8". I'm grateful. I don't want to be 6 feet something. Like, imagine witnessing being that tall. Ooh. And my homie mentioned that you stop growing when you're 25. No. Like, you're using that in the brain theory, thinking like, oh, it's 25. No. Not even 18 or not even your 30s or your 40s. People think that your brain just continues. It does not continue. Even your beard growth or your bone structure. You stop growing when you're 18 for boys and 16 for girls, typically 16. And excuse me, chat. And I mean, when you're 18, your brain would be exactly the size it was meant to be after birth, like being fully formed, fully developed. But when you're 7, you're aware of it, so it's like enlarged enough. That's why I want to be a psychologist, so I can like scan the brain, because a doctor can't do that. I'm pretty sure, unless they could to witness the physical aspect of it, but the like mental state of the neurons, especially the prefrontal cortex. That'll be a psychologist's job because a doctor diagnosing whether certain individuals have mental disabilities, that is on the psychologist. Medical doctors can diagnose because they were accusing me of having autism at first or LDD, meaning learning developmental delay, which I don't necessarily have because I know how to learn, obviously. Well, obviously, mine is not developing in terms of learning, and it's not delaying like how, the way you think. No. And I don't have autism. I mean, I used to have this traumatic issue where I'm like, oh, do I have it? Do I not? And I constantly go back and forth saying, oh, I have it. Oh, no, I don't have it. It just goes back and forth. And I was wondering if I had a learning disability, which learning developmental delay is parts of it. But, as time continues, I just have, I don't necessarily have any mental disabilities, but a rare specific type of mental trauma, which is very rare and very temporary, and overall very decreased overall, yeah, I mean, hold on, give me a minute, yeah. Alright, yeah, my bad. I was thinking about something personal, so. But yeah, it was mentioning, maturity is not something you overall reach at a certain time. Well, 7, see, because I was mentioning, because they assume, oh, you're mentally mature when you're 18. They assume that. And that's why they add the legal term, oh, you're an adult 18. You're mentally an adult, which I've already mentioned the meaning of it and all that shit, but you're overall mentally mature, you're aware of your mental maturity when you're 7. And there has to be no legal term towards it. So assuming that the individual is mentally mature when 18, or mentally an adult, regardless of however you want to use it. Hold up, chat. Yeah. Alright. Oh, my bad, chat. I have to be quiet. But I'm gonna end it overall afterwards, though. Yeah, I'm typically loud, Yeah, I'm typically loud, so. Cause even my mommy's girl, she has sensitive hearing, so when I talk loud, she doesn't like it. And I'm like, hey, that's how my voice is. So God of my Jesus Christ. Well, anyway, I'm gonna head to bed afterwards. But you can't assume that the individual is mentally mature when they're 18. You can't assume. There can't be a legal term oh, you're an adult because of that age. No. The word adult, I've already explained it on my recent live streams, so I'm not gonna explain. Unless you want me to, but possibly whenever. But anyway, I'm gonna head to bed afterwards. So, I mean, mental maturity is a slow process, until you're 7. Because it mentioned that mental maturity is something mental maturity is not something you overall reach at a certain time. Well, for 7, yeah, because you're aware of it. And it mentioned that it's a process, a slow, gradual, precious process. And I'm pretty sure that's from when you're newborn, from 1 to 6, and then when you're 7, you're aware of your mental maturity. That's what it means. Overall, that's what it means. So yeah, mental maturity is actually something you overall reach at certain times when you're 7, but it's a slow process from when you're a newborn, from 1 to 6, But anyway, chat, I'm gonna end right here. If you want to see more of me playing GT5 story mode, or excuse me, not story mode, GT5 director mode, be sure to leave a comment down below. Also, I'm gonna end right here. Take it easy, chat, and yeah, I'm gonna head to bed. I mean, if I was a father or mother, well, I'm gonna be a father. I wouldn't care if my kids are loud. I'm pretty sure it's not a sin. I'm pretty sure if your music is very loud, then you wouldn't have to do it within a certain time. Possibly 1 or 2 wouldn't be appropriate. or 3, unless it's like at an indoor place and you're like somewhere else and people aren't aware, you know? So, but yeah, anyway, yeah, chat, I'm gonna end right here. Yeah, if you want to see more of me playing GT5 story mode, yeah, be sure to leave down below. Excuse me, direct mode. Yeah, be sure to leave down below. Otherwise, I'm gonna end right here. Take it easy, chat. Um, what I want to overall mention before I consider heading to bed. Pretty sure that's all. Hold on, let me check where I left off. My name, for example. Let's say I was somewhere, my homies were talking shit, which they would never. If they who you want to be president, whether or AM. And it's all good. I'm gonna end right here. Take it easy, chat.